Working with hard light in your studio portraits can feel a little bit intimidating at first, but there are 3 really good reasons for trying hard light in your next portrait session. The first one is the shadows. You're going to get beautifully crisp, dramatic shadows. Secondly, hard light can give you the illusion of really sharp pictures. And thirdly, there's no softboxes required for this. That's just one less thing to worry about. But there is a little bit of technical know-how. So let's get our light set, let's get a model in, let's get shooting. To help me out today, I've got the amazing Chloe. Chloe's going to be the model for this photo session. And if we're talking about hard light, possibly the best light source you can have is actually a speedlight. And you might think, well, you know, you've got big lights, studio options, why a speedlight? Well, it all comes down to the size of the light source, because although we talk about hard light, actually what we really mean is hard shadows. And the best way to explain it is to take a photo. So I've got a speedlight set up. It's going to come through a classic set of blinds because, well, it's film noir, you've got to really, haven't you? But really it's because it's going to give us some great shadows to analyze. I've got a speedlight with a diffusing dome on the front. What that's going to do is just spread the light around the room and give me the softest hard light I can get in here. Let's take a test photo and see how this actually works. Okay, Chloe, here we go, quick little test photo. And the end result is, well, quite dramatic, but let's ignore that for the time being and look at the shadows cast by the cookie, also known as the blinds. And they are definitely there. There are shadows, but when you look up close, they are soft-edged shadows. And that's because the light is bouncing off the walls and the ceiling, effectively making the small speedlight quite a lot larger. I'm going to take the diffusing dome off and just use the bare speedlight, which should give me a bit more of a directional flash because it's not going to bounce around so much. And what we're interested in, of course, is the shadows. And they are very slightly more crisp edged. So this is a slightly harder light source because now it's no longer bouncing off so many of the walls and the ceiling, but we can go even further than this. I can actually make the speedlight even smaller by using something like this. Now this is a snoot. I'll leave gear links in the video description down below for everything I'm using here. It fits neatly over the front of the speedlight, and its purpose in this instance is to reduce the diameter of the flash that's lighting Chloe. So my camera settings for this haven't changed. I'm at 250th of a second flash sync speed for this particular camera, f8 for a good depth of field, and ISO 200, which means if the flash doesn't fire, I get no picture at all. But is that the right amount of power? 1/4 power? Let's find out. Quick little test photo. Here we go, Chloe. Yeah, actually, I think I've probably got it more or less bang on. But it's the shadows I'm interested in, and this time you can see they are just that much sharper and crisper and more defined than they were before. That's the basics of hard light. The smaller you make your light source, the more crisp your shadows become. So Chloe, are you ready? Okay, here we go. As an alternative to using a snoot, what I could do is simply pick up my light and move it further away from Chloe and the blinds. That would have the effect of making the light smaller compared to Chloe, and therefore the shadow from the blinds crisper. But there is a trade-off, and that would be the diverging effect that I'm getting from this really close light source, which is something I actually really like. I've changed things around a little bit, and now we have this kind of dark film noir type background. At least it will be when we add some light and maybe a bit of smoke. Keep watching. But for now, there's one other use for hard light, and that is for texture and detail. Because unlike soft light, which is for smoothing and giving gentle details, hard light can really show the texture, but only if you point it in the right direction. So at the moment, I've got the light pretty much square on to Chloe, just hitting her straight in the face. It's gonna light the scene, but spoiler alert, this isn't how we're going to leave it. Let's take a test photo. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, it lights the scene, but it really is pretty bad and not what I'm after at all. So I've moved the light round and now it's coming in from more of an angle, at least from the camera's point of view. And what this is going to do is give us shadows, and it's the shadows that are going to show us the detail and texture. So this curtain here has ridges in it, and that's going to show as lit areas and shady areas. That's where we get the illusion of texture and sharpness. Let's see if it works first of all. Here we go. It really does. It gives us mood in the picture as well, because contrast adds mood and contrast adds detail and sharpness to the image. It's no sharper than it was before. It's all an illusion, but it's an illusion with light. The only thing I want to change here is perhaps a little bit of light on the opposite side to our key light. So round the back, I've got a second flash with that snoot on it, and that's going to put a little bit of light down onto the background. The background fabric also has a bit of texture, but it's also going to put a little bit of light onto Chloe's shoulder and just lift her from the darkness. And this starts to become a little bit more cinematic. Cinematic lighting we'll talk about in a second, because I think we should just take a few photos like this. Chloe, are you ready? Okay, here we go. So just to recap, a small light source gives you hard-edged shadows, and a light source that is pushed off to the side gives you maximum texture, which looks really good if you're after maximum sharpness. Just bear in mind that if your subject has asked for flattering lighting, this probably isn't it, but it does look good here. We've looked at the hard light part, but not really the cinematic part. So cinematic lighting, in my mind, it's like this. You're going to light a scene that someone's in, rather than lighting someone in a scene. That's the difference between normal lighting and cinematic lighting. So we've got the scene, I've moved Chloe forward, and I've got some lights in slightly different positions. Let me run through them. The first one is this light back here, which is a speedlight. And it's also a hard light because it's a small light source, and it's distant. We know how that's going to work, but the job of this one is not to create shadows, but actually to fill them in. And it looks pretty bad, but there's going to be extra lights in the scene, and let's start with this one. Now this is actually the key light. The key light in a scene is the one that actually lights your subject. Now we're trying to create a cinematic scene, a room lit scene, and this is simulating a light that would be up in the ceiling. So now these two lights are starting to work together. But of course we've got that really dark background. And for that, I've got a background light. Its job is to light the curtains, but this is film noir. We can't do film noir without one really important ingredient, and it is smoke. And in this case, it's the smoke ninja that's going to generate the smoke. And that's really all there is to this particular setup. It's not just the lighting that's making this cinematic, it's the props and of course the smoke. Everything is combining together to create a little story that you can interpret in any way you like. Of course, I do love a bit of smoke, and it's worth remembering any smoke in the room will build up over time. So start with a little and then add to it to create the effect that you want. Imagine a Venn diagram, and on one side it says hard light, and on the other side cinematic lighting, and at the bottom things I know a bit about. In the center would definitely be film noir, but that's not the only use for any of these things. And once you've learnt the basics of hard lighting or cinematic lighting, you can use them in all sorts of ways. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions about it, then just leave me a comment down below. Click on the thumbs up button because we always appreciate that. And of course, click on that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And if you want to see more film noir from myself, I've got 1 or 2 videos right here on Adorama TV on that very subject, so why not check out this video for your next watch. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.